Good evening, and thank you for joining us for Conversations with Taz. Now, tonight, y'all know it's Taz-tastic Tuesdays. Baby, y'all got a double dose of Taz coming up. We're going to be talking to the founder, the creative genius, the creme de la creme behind Tag Studios. And if you're not familiar with who or what Tag Studios is, you're about to get completely familiar now. Let me bring on tonight's guest. Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. How are
It
you?
it is my pleasure, my fellow Taz. I'm doing all right. I cannot complain.
So, take a little bit of time and explain to the people, introduce yourself to everyone.
Okay. I am Curtis Taz Williams. I'm an artist, a writer, just a creator. And I have decided to go into self-publishing and start printing graphic novels under my own comic book imprint, which is Tag Studios.
Okay, I gotta ask, when did you first discover comic books and graphic novels before you even decided to venture into it yourself?
And it's really interesting. Well, it's interesting to me. I don't know how interesting to be to other people, but I've been drawing since I was like 3 years old, and every Saturday morning cartoon, every anything. I was a big Mr. T fan when I was a kid, so I would draw the A Team all the time. I draw Michael Jackson. I draw all this other stuff, but I knew I wanted to do that for a living. I just did. I had no idea what I was going to do. I thought that I was going to have to go into animation and make cartoons and things of that. And then I watched a documentary. I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and they showed how cartoons were made. And I said, that's too much work. I can't do that. That's you got to draw the same thing like 8,000 times for like 1 minute. And I said, I'm cool on that. So I had no idea what I was going to channel that into. And then I remember I was in the fifth grade, and a classmate of mine, he also drew a lot. He had brought this classic X-Men comic, and I had no idea what X-Men. I mean, I knew what Spider-Man was and stuff like that, but I'd never really read a comic book, and no one ever gave me a comic book. So he let me borrow his classic X-Men. I'll never forget it. It was Wolverine teamed up with Alpha Flight to take on Wendigo, and I thought it was the greatest thing I had ever seen in my life. Like, I was hooked, and I'm like, well, where's the next one? He's like, that's all I have. I'm like, I need the next issue. So I begged my mom to try to find some comic books. We found actually they were at Walmart at the time, and I grabbed Uncanny X-Men and X Factor and Amazing Spider-Man and Spectacular, everything I could get my hands on. And that's when I said, okay, this is what I can do. I can draw like this. I can't do cartoons. So from that moment on, I was probably maybe 10 or 11 years old at that point, and that's when I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Nice, nice. Hmm. Wait a minute. Were you one of those? Are you a DC Marvel crossover type of person?
Not really. I like all comics. Every comic publisher has something I like, but I'm more Marvel. Marvel always seemed like they had, even though we talking about people that can fly and shoot lasers out their eyes and stuff like that, they just their characters always seem more relatable. Like kind of like this. When I was a kid, like a lot of us, you spend time with your mom or your grandmother, or your older sister, your aunt. They watch soap operas, right? So a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
that's all you had no choice. If you're in the house and you're watching, especially on those rainy days, you had to watch whatever the adults were watching. They would watch soap operas. Well, the one that I got into more than the rest of them was The Young and the Restless. I liked it more than when they would cut on All My Children or Santa Barbara or any of them other shows, because the people on The Young and the Restless had jobs. Not all of them had, like, they weren't
Hmm.
working at factories and, construction workers, but they had jobs. You actually seen them go to work. Every other soap opera, they were just rich. They were just rich, walking around their mansions. And that's how I looked at Marvel and DC, where DC's characters were like gods, Superman, Wonder Woman. These are like gods. But you look at Marvel, you got Spider-Man, who's, got a part-time job as a photographer. He's always broke. You have the
Don't
X-Men.
get out on my man like that.
I'm just saying, like,
Don't get out on my peoples like that.
he's a good
Somebody
character.
he always
I'm
broke.
I'm giving him props. I'm giving him props. He's a good character, and he has a good heart, and he's legit, which is why he'll be broke and be working as a photographer and taking everybody's crap. knowing he could, he done saved the world multiple times. He done saved the city multiple times, but no one can ever know it because he had to protect his aunt, he has to protect his girlfriend, his friends, stuff like that. So they were just always relatable to me as opposed to, the DC characters. But DC has had some books and things that I've liked. I'm not gonna just front on them like that, but I'm a Marvel person.
See, this is why I rocks with you. So, what was your first, what you consider your first official project that you completed?
This is actually going to be the first project to actually see publishing and get into the hands of others. I've had so many books done over the years from high school to when I was in college to, throughout my 20s and 30s. I've had several books that I finished. But for whatever reason, whether it was just printing costs being too much or I got what I call adult ADD, and I will come up with a book and I think it's the greatest idea in the world. And I'm out here penciling and inking, 20 something pages. And then another idea will pop in my brain and I just scrap the 22 pages I just did. And I'm starting on the new idea because now this idea is going to be the greatest thing that anybody's ever seen. So procrastination, getting in my own way and stuff like that kind of led to delays in certain things. And it wasn't until this year that I really buckled down and said, you know what, I'm about to go ahead and do this. Printing costs are still high, but a lot of printers are doing low print runs now. So before you would have to order at least like 1,000 copies. And my fear
Hmm.
was ordering 1,000 copies. Everyone's excited about it. And I can sell, a hot 30 to 50, but then, I'm stuck with 950 books that I got to do something with. I didn't want to get in that because it's a big investment to make. But now you have companies all over the place that'll do print runs of, 25, 50, 100 to where you
Hmm.
can kind of test the waters to see if you're going to be able to do this, if it's going to be something lucrative without having to throw all your rent money down the toilet. You can actually just test it out and see, get a good following and stuff like that.
Tell us about this project. Give us a little behind the scenes sneaky peek.
Okay. Um, with Tag Studios, it's gonna be that's my own Marvel. It's my own Marvel comics, my own Marvel Cinematic Universe, my own DC comics, my own DC Extended Universe, my own Image Comics, my own whatever comic company you can think of, and all of my ideas from all those books that I was mentioning before that I get started on and then get sidetracked because I come up with something else. All those books and those characters, they're all going to be in the same universe in this one, and a lot of those books are they're completely different from each other. So there will be something that appeals to the Star Wars people because it's a straight, space opera that I'm doing. It'll be another one that'll appeal to the Lord of the Rings people because you have your sci-fi and fantasy with your dragons and orcs. Then you have your straight up superhero stuff. Then you have your stuff for more mature superhero readers, that like extra violence and like some cuss words thrown in from time to time. So it's going to be everything that comic book fans like. You're going to have something in some genre that will appeal to you. The first project is actually a preview book that I'm doing. It's just a mini preview, like 14 pages. But you also it's a bunch of bonus stuff I'm throwing in there with it, and I'm doing this again to test the waters, to see if people like it, to get it out there. That's my main thing. It's just to get it out there to people. It's a passion project. So the more thought that was going into it, it turned out to be more than just me wanting to do one issue of a book and see what it can do. I have a whole universe of characters that I want to do and just explore it. And kind of getting to what you were saying in the promo, a better representation for a certain sect of people that needs to be out there, so we all have something that we can identify with in these books without getting overly preachy and stuff like that. I just want to entertain people.
So, when can we expect the preview?
The preview is going the way that the printing schedule is going right now. It's going to be going into the third week of November. I got everything set up with them. I actually send everything off to the printer this Friday, and the turnaround is usually about 12 to 14 days. So as soon as I get those in, it could be within the second week of November. I want to actually have them in my hands before I say, hey, they're available. This is the date that I'm dropping it, and so forth. But we're looking at mid-November. Everything's coming out at that point. I already got the cards. Actually, I would show them, but I'm keeping everything real close to the vest right now. But I got the cards, and I'm not gonna lie, they're dope. Like if you um, got like the Marvel cards back in the '90s, it's the same setup as those types of cards. It's got the hollow foil on it. It's shiny with the gold stamping and all.
Oh,
They're
this is what
great.
I love to hear.
Yeah, I was excited, and the cost for it wasn't an arm and a leg. The printer, they're really good people. They're real personable. So they gave me a bunch of samples of stuff so that I knew exactly what it was that I was ordering. And yeah, it's gonna be great. But mid-November is when the preview book is dropping with all the extra goodies that I've been ordering and
So I'm
making.
hearing right in time for Christmas.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I know my little brother is watching because here's his comment. Glad to hear that a lot of African Americans' biggest problem is fear of putting their art out there. That is true.
Yes.
Very, very true. Um, and speaking of which, because I know that there's one social media platform that we share together.
Hmm.
Um, and I know I don't see and catch everything, but I do know that you have been vocal about your journey on social media.
Yeah.
How has the response to you sharing that journey been?
It's been super positive. The one thing, especially on the platform that you're mentioning, um, it's more geared towards you are going to surround yourself on there with a lot of like-minded people, a lot of family, a lot of friends, classmates, just people like how you and I were introduced. I didn't know you before we were both on there, but you're somebody that I hold a lot of respect for.
Thank you.
The No problem. The response to it's been positive, and that's the one good thing. Like I said, on that particular platform, no matter what it is that I was doing, I get shown, some genuine love from people. And not everybody can say they know somebody that makes comic books. So they're just like, oh, let me check that out. Not a knock to any other hustle, but we all know people that sell dinners and they sell clothing and they sell this and they sell that, and we all support them. So with comic books, it's kind of a unique venture. So they're kind of like, oh, I want to see what this is. So they've been super supportive. Of everything. A lot of these same people were around for all my other false starts when I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do this book. I'm gonna do this book. And I'm posting pictures and scenes from the book and pages and things like that. And then the book never comes out. But they're still like, you know what, I'm still waiting. Like someone messaged me earlier today and it's like, yeah, I've only been waiting about 15 years for this book. So I'm glad you breaking down and doing it now. So I'm like, yeah, I got you. I got you.
Yeah, because I know when we I guess we could say we're first introduced to each other, you had brought it up and you were like, "Oh, I'm thinking about doing this book." And I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Now, I have the same ADD mind. So, I didn't realize one how long we've known each other at this point
Right.
cuz that went quick. A very enjoyable quick, but it went quick.
Yeah.
But honestly, in my mind, when you started like putting out dates and going, "Oh, get ready for this. This is coming." To me, it felt overnight.
Yeah.
And I like when I was putting together the promo video and I'm actually looking at dates, I'm like, girl, your conception of time is off.
it it is like that, but that's another thing too. Being on there, years will go by from the moment that you're introduced to somebody, and you start thinking about like, oh my god, I don't wish this person 8 happy birthdays, and it just kicks in, and like you said, you'll start looking at the art. You're like, oh my god, he was talking about this then, and he was talking about this then, and then like I said, when it really starts coming in fruition, it does feel like it was just done overnight. Um, and honestly, with people who create content, who whatever it is that they do, um, it always will appear that it did just happen overnight, because behind the scenes, then people have gone days without sleeping because they're pouring everything into getting their stuff done. So when it's presented, it's supposed to look like it was just done overnight. It was supposed to look effortlessly, not knowing, all the blood, sweat, and tears, and sacrifices and things like that people make for whatever it is they're doing. Whether you're, like I said, you run a podcast, you putting out albums, you're making a movie, whatever it is you're doing, by the time it reaches the masses, it should be so well put together. that you feel like, man, y'all should have been up on me, like. So it's just one of those things where I'm just very fortunate. I'm very happy that things have been proceeding the way they've been going.
Okay, here's my most important question. Out of all the characters you have created, what's your top five?
My top five character. Oh God, that is. I'm going to put my number one. I ain't gonna do the countdown. I'm gonna go 1 to 5. My
Okay.
number one favorite character that I created was my first character that I created when I was probably 3 or 4 years old. Now, granted, the backstory on it, don't expect anything deep because I was 3 and 4 years old. But it was a character named Tornado Man. And what happened was my sister, she's 6 years older than me. So she was already in school and everything like that. I used to get so much of her notebook paper for school, and I would just draw. I mean, draw. I would just have whole trapper keepers full of drawings when I was 3and 4 years old.
Oh, you
And
just dated us with the Trapper Keeper, though.
Trapper Keeper. I thought I was gonna date y'all with the Mr. T and the A-Team, man. Like, And I said I used to draw pictures of Michael Jackson. Ain't no kids born in the 90s drawing pictures of Michael Jackson. I'm an 80s kid. Like, you gotta know that where that kicks in it.
But
But
I do miss the Trapper Keeper. It was very handy.
it was, yes, it had all kinds of pockets and Velcro straps and everything else.
And
You're
it
like,
was waterproof because I'm clumsy.
yes, yes. And they showed that on them commercials too. It'd be a kid dropping it in a whole puddle. He pull it out like, see, my homework's just fine.
Yeah,
Like,
that was me. I was that kid. My mom would be
but
like, "You wouldn't. Ain't no mud around the house. How did you find mud? I don't know."
right, mama, you birthed me. You know how I am. Don't act all surprised now. Like, you've known me my whole life, mama. But no, I used to get her paper, and what it happened, my parents, they were just like, listen, we love you. And we love you expressing yourself, but you are wasting all of your sister's paper. So they would get me paper. And the whole 200 pack would be gone in about a day because I'm just drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing. I mean, I'm 4 years old. It ain't like I got a job. I ain't got nothing better to do. So I'm just drawing, right? So at the end, I'm like, Ma, I need some more paper. And she's looking like, what happened to the paper I just bought you? And I'm like, well, I used it all. So what would happen is I would start drawing because I had no concept of an eraser. So I would draw, and in the picture, I didn't like it. So I would just kind of, scribble and scratch it out. I'm just scribbling it out. And so she's like, well, you better figure out a way to use that paper that you already got. So I would flip it over. I'm drawing on the other sides, but those got filled up quickly. So I have all like 200 pages of half drawn characters scribbled all out. So I listened to my mama. She said, don't waste that paper. So I would start drawing characters on top of the scribbles. And the more I would do that, the more the scribble started looking like a tornado. So the tornado would be the guy's lower half of his body, and I draw the upper half of his body, and I draw all kind of adventures. Again, he's teaming up with Mr. T and Michael Jackson and fighting crime. But Tornado Man was the first one I came up with. And throughout the years, I've always drawn him. I've always made sure to come back to him. Even in the Tag Studio books, I have a very special Tornado Man book that I'm actually working on. I'm about 8 or 9 pages into it. But that's my number one. My number two, I would say, I have a book called The Highly Favored. And
Mm.
I don't want to give the concept away, but just imagine a whole world just full of nothing but black superheroes. Not just full of black people, but black superheroes. The same people we got on this planet now, but the people that got powers are black.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. As a comic stan
Mm-hmm.
that is also a black woman, do you know how long I've been waiting to hear that?
Yeah, and I've, as a black man, you know how long I've been waiting to see it. But again, I can't give the concept of why they have these powers away. It's deep. It's very deep. But it just explores the ramifications. Just imagine the same political climate that we have right now. If all of a sudden you had, about 70 or 80 black people on this planet that just had powers of like Superman and Green Lantern and Wolverine. They developed these powers all of a sudden. and I can't name just one character from those books. They featured so many different characters from different walks of life. Every issue is an origin story. You got a character that's from Detroit. You have a character from New York. You have a character from Africa. You have a character from Brazil. And they all develop these powers at the same time. Again, I can't tell you what triggered their powers, but it's a dope concept, and it was actually going to be the first tag book that I came up with. Um, but the more I went back to my archives and all these other books that I got done, I have books that are completely done and they're great concepts. And I said I need to get those out first because they're actually finished. Instead of taking the time to draw a brand new 80-page book, and then have gradually put my other stuff out. I said I'm gonna go ahead and put them out. But the highly favored, I would say, is my number two for concept alone. For just the fact that we don't have a book like that out. Now, I take that back. I do take that back. There is a book that I recently got hip to that has a similar concept. What gives them their powers is completely different from my book. Um, but I'm so upset because I can't think of what the title of it is. I will make sure I get that to you on the humble. But I actually got to read the preview book for those people to put that out. It was very good. So other black creators that make comics, I always try to give them a shout out and stuff like that, which goes back to something I want to talk to you about later. But yeah, that's one of my books that I'm very excited about. My third character would have to be the Mosquito, and he's as ridiculous as the
Hmm.
name sounds. Yes, it is, and I can give you the background story on him, somewhat. He was bitten by a drunk radioactive mosquito, and he's
Wait, did you say drunk and radioactive?
yeah, the drunk part was most important because it was
You
drunk.
must know my uncle.
Yeah, I know a lot of uncles, and to be honest with you, I got an uncle just like that too, which actually inspired a lot for this particular character. He's that the go-to character that every comic book universe should have. He's a Spider-Man, he's a Deadpool, he's a Harley Quinn. He's one of those type of characters that he's great for comic relief, but if you throw him in a book, he's going to steal the show. His powers are so ridiculous. His stature, he doesn't look like a traditional hero. He's only maybe 5 feet tall. He's between 4'8" and 5 feet tall. He has no muscles, got a pot belly. He's got a short temper. He's a smart ass. It's just a lot of stuff that goes into it with him. But writing him, I don't have to write him. I just draw him, and everything comes to the paper because he's basically represents anybody who reads the books. He represents me. He represents my friends. He's just the perspective of the everyday average person witnessing all this superhero and science fiction stuff happening around him. He represents us. He's like a point of view character. And actually, he's one of the stars of the preview book as well.
Nice.
Um, and then four, oh, it's you have to understand. I have 1,015 characters, but
I know.
four four would probably be Morris. Morris is actually going to be the first full length book I put out. Every book I put out is going to be between I say 40 and 80 pages. Some might be 40, some might be 60, some might be 80. Morris is going to be a 60-page book only because I've already written the entire thing and I've got about 16 pages of it done. It'll be out probably around January or February. But he is your everyman superhero. He's not that bright, but he has a good heart. His backstory is awesome. It's all science fiction superhero stuff with some comedic twist to it. He
Hmm.
has a one-eyed cyborg cat named Nibbles. Like it's ridiculous, but it's fun, and
I
it
love
make
it.
when you start reading it, it'll make perfect sense. But he's like the most recent creation that I've made. But writing him again, it's one of those things. He just kind of writes himself, so that's why he's going to be the first book because I can get it done. Even though I have these other books done, that's going to be the first one released because I can get it done so fast. I've been doing about 3 pages of it a day, and I've only been at him for about a week and a half, so it's coming along nicely. And five, I would say who would be five? Oh, five actually. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have had to think so hard on that. Five is a group called the Forever Clan, and it was something that was created by that same guy that gave me my first comic book. We created
Hmm.
this in the fifth and sixth grade. All through fifth and sixth grade, we would draw these comics of the Forever Clan. And it's a deep backstory to it. It also deals with a lot of African Americans with superpowers. It deals with origins of man and stuff like that. If you like X-Men, that's going to be the book for you. But those are the top five. It's just so many. I'm gonna be mad because later on I'm like, oh, I should have mentioned such and such. But those are my top five because I have so many stories poured into them. One thing I will say, it's an honorary mention. There's a character named Jenny Everywhere. I did not come up with this character. In the early 2000s, there was an online community that were coming up with characters left and right, some better than others. But the whole purpose
Mhm.
of that online community was to create characters that everybody could use. So it's an open source character. And the person that came up with her just it's a citation that they want put in for every book, but that's it. But anybody once you put her in your book, you own the rights to that version of the character. But it's something. It's kind of like characters that are in public domain. Like any of us
Mhm.
we can all make a Wizard of Oz book if we wanted to because no one owns the rights to those characters. You just can't make it look like MGM's Wizard of Oz or Disney's Wizard of Oz. But you can make your own Tin Man, Cowardly Lion, Dorothy. You can do all of that. And Jenny Everywhere is a character like that. And her power, like she's just like super OP. If you guys get a chance, just Google her, Jenny Everywhere. She's got a whole family. She's got like Johnny Somewhere is her brother, and
Hmm.
Jenny Neverwhere is her evil sister, and stuff like that. It's dope. But for her book, it actually follows the whole concept of public domain. The book is called Domain, but she's another fun character to write, mainly because I didn't have to come up with her, but I have free reign to do any stories that I want with her. So I thought that was a cool concept from those people that created her.
Okay, so we have another question from the audience. What is your inspiration for your characters?
I think it's a good question. The inspiration when I was younger is just like everybody else when you're young. You want to make your own Spider-Man. So, oh, and he's not Spider-Man, he's Bug-Man. You do stuff like that. The older that you get to put more of a creative stamp on it. You've learned more, you think about a lot more. So most of the inspiration I have for my characters now are actually people that I know. I always think I come up with like a power concept, like, well, this guy can do this and this girl can do that. But I put the whole personality backstory is always based on me, my friends, my family. I have a character in my books that are based on almost everybody that I know. I just incorporate whether it's their look. I draw certain characters to look like my friends and family and people like that, or it's some character I already have, but I put the personality traits of my friends or family on there. Like myself, I'm the inspiration for a lot of these characters because it's just my interpretation of what I would do if I ever walked outside and saw people flying and throwing cars. So I put my own little spin on it. So but yeah, that's mainly it. I basically make base them on people that I know, and just go from there.
And there's a part two. They asked, are there any characters based on yourself?
Oh yeah, yeah. The mosquitoes definitely has a lot of Taz in them. Um, that sounded horrible, but it has he got a lot of
Wait a minute, that Taz, not
right,
this Taz.
right, right,
That
right,
Taz, not
right,
this one.
right.
Oh my goodness. Hey, Uncle Michi, my bad. Sorry, I thought you knew. My bad. I'm as in trouble, Taz. Um, but so okay, because I know you. I kind of figured there was a part of you in the mosquito. I do have one because first of all, we know that on any given day, I pretty much dress like a real life superhero because I never grew up. Um, we both know, should I ever make it into the book, I'm gonna be on the villain side. We both know that because I would
Hey.
be way more fun as a villain. And well, let's not forget how we met. I wasn't quite nice to certain
Hey, on that
because I
platform,
remember
it
that
happens.
message like, wait a minute, I see why your name is Taz. Can we
And
be friends?
yes, yeah, and that's the thing that platform makes it easy to not be so nice to certain people. But when you meet people like yourself, like when we clicked, it's kind of like, oh, we can tag team up on these people. She thinks just like
Yeah.
I do. So, it's one of those things. But yeah, I've got you. I got you. You're actually going to make your debut in Morris. See, that's the thing. I
Ooh.
actually there's a lot of characters. Like another one of my friends gets name dropped in the preview book, and not only does she get name dropped, Her own business that she started gets name dropped in the book, and not in a way that where it's just overt, like, make sure you get your beauty products from this person. No, it actually incorporates in the story. One of our characters gets their products from my friend. She gets name checked, and there's a lot of other people that are going to make appearances. I wanted them to be surprised, but since we're already talking about it, I just want to let you know you made it into, and the book is called Morris and the Beast of
Well, thank you,
Venus.
darling.
You make it in there, yes.
Well, here's the thing, and to my recurring audience, it has been a while since we have done an online party. And I think if you are willing, when you're ready to drop, even if we have to do it on a special day,
Mhm.
I think we should have an online premiere party. And if your friend is willing and wants to join in too, and we can incorporate her business into it also,
Yeah,
what do you think?
I'm definitely down for that. Like, yeah, because I was planning on throwing a little something, something, because, like I said, this is a lifelong dream. This is a bucket list thing for me. So, I was gonna be celebrating, and I think it would be perfect to be celebrating with you and everyone else. Like, it's a great concept.
Yeah, because it's been a while since we've done a party. Um, the only rule is the last person I threw an online party for, after they had their online party, they decided they wanted to hate me. I don't see how you could hate this,
Right? You can't hate nobody named Taz. It's impossible.
but it's okay though. Also, now I know you've talked about the preview book, but I know that it's more than just a book that people
Hmm.
are getting. So you want
Yes.
to tell them about the other nuggets that come?
Yes, yes. And just a real quick backstory to it. The inspiration for me doing this came from two places. One it's right on the nose for what I'm trying to do. Another is a place that I never thought I'd get any inspiration from. One was just growing up reading comics in the 90s, where if you got the first issue of X Force, they had five different trading cards that you could get. So it made people want to
Yeah.
go out and buy five versions of the book so they can get all five trading cards. When X-Men #1 dropped with Jim Lee, there were five different covers. They that every company started having like the foil gold stamp covers and the hologram covers and all these alternative covers. I remember when they killed off Superman, it came with that and a black armband, like you was going to a funeral, like you got all of these
Hmm.
accessories. And they used to do that a lot for all the companies: Image, Marvel, DC, everybody, Dark Horse, even upstart companies. They would give you trading cards, they would give you posters, they give you all kind of stuff. And I wanted to bring that back. Um, because when you used to get books, first off, they were all like a dollar 25, and then even when Image books were coming out, you're still spending at most like 2.25. I remember Spawn was $1.75 for the longest, and I thought
Yeah.
that was crazy at the time. Like, they want $1.75, but I would kill for $1.75 books right now because
Oh
you.
yeah, because when I got my Thanos, it was 225, and I remember standing in the comic book store like, are they?
Mhm.
Like I felt like probably how boomers feel now.
Yeah, that's it. You always
And now looking back, I'm like, I should have shut up while I was standing in that line.
like back in my day, we used to. Yeah, that's exactly how it feels. So I wanted to bring that back. The second source of inspiration actually came because there's you're going to find it doesn't matter what field or you go into or whatever it is, there's going to be groups of people that are bigoted, that are prejudiced, that have that. And as we had from our last president, there's a lot of people that like that orange fella. So what they ended up doing is it trickled down to comics, and we come to find out there were a lot of comic creators that shared a lot of political beliefs that this guy did. And they go on their YouTube channels and they rant about liberals and agendas and SJ. They do all this stuff all day long. They don't even talk about comics. They just rant about political stuff and then say they don't want politics in their comics, which is ironic because I'm like, all you're talking about is politics. But I'm an open-minded person, so I wanted to see what the fuss is about because they have a movement. It's not as strong as it was like 2 or 3 years ago when they started it,
Mhm.
but called Comics Gate. And someone suggested Comics Gate to me when I announced I was trying to do a book a few years back. So I said, let me check this out. Let me see what it is. I said, why would you even suggest that to me? I'm black. Like, there's no way in the world I'm about to be, like these is basically Klansmen making comics. But I was looking at what they were doing. they would start campaigns. Like they were trying to do Kickstarter, but you can only get on there talking about, you can't say a bunch of xenophobic, racist, sexist, misogynist stuff for too long before bigger companies like Kickstarter say we're not promoting your book. So they
Right.
went to another Kickstarter type of site and they have their stuff up. But I was noticing their followers blindly support them, just like that orange fella, to where it doesn't matter what they put out, they support it. They do these campaigns where they say, well, if you contribute $100, you get the book and you get a bookmark and you get a trading card. If you contribute 75, you get a book and you get this. And I started looking at like that's actually kind of dope that they give all this extra stuff, but then you turn around and look like, but the book, the person that makes the book is a racist, and I can't really support it like that. But I supported, not support it, but I was admiring the extras that they were throwing in there because they had to do something to promote those books to make people want to contribute $100 to get a 25-page comic, which is ridiculous. But they were supporting it. I can't knock the hustle. So that's what they were doing. Um, and this is how ridiculous it is. They end up coming up with books like Space Cats, and I'm looking at like Space Cats. Really, y'all dropped $100 to get a 25-page book about space cats, but they support it. Their movement, they support their movement, and I want to get the Black comic creators. I want to get the Blurs to have our
Oh yeah.
own version of that. I
And you
want us.
definitely need to look into possibly getting a book at Afro Comic Con.
Yes, that was there's a black owned comic shop here in Columbus. Well, it's in Gahanna, but close enough to Columbus. That another friend of mine hit me on to today. So I'm reaching out to them to find out different things about getting the books in there. But through looking them up, I started finding out about all of these conventions that we have,
Hmm.
where we're promoting our stuff, and we're coming together. I want to see us come together more because, like I said, if I don't want to take inspiration from racists and things like that. But one thing I say is that in their community, their comic book community, they're sticking together. I want us to stick together because not only will it benefit us, but I know we're putting out a positive message with a positive product without being preachy. Um, that's,
Exactly. And
you
it's
know,
well, and also we need to put Black excellence on the forefront
yes, ma'am.
because okay, first of all, y'all know me, so you knew at some point during this is what was gonna happen. I was either gonna bring up history or I am my daddy's child.
Go
Bear
ahead
with me
now.
for just a second. We know that historically within the United States, white people have the ability to be completely mediocre and be profitable and become wealthy and set up generational wealth. We have to be 4 times as great to even get a notice. And we need to bring back the mindset of Black Wall Street, of
Mm-hmm.
Rosewood, and of those things where we
Yes.
helped boost each other to be great. It is
Yes.
time to go back to the days of I am my brother's keeper,
Yes, ma'am.
and he ain't too heavy for me to carry him.
Yes, ma'am.
Because trust and believe, once this once this drops, everybody who watches this knows I chose to live where I live because I'm within walking distance of a comic book store. You
Hey there.
best to believe
Yes.
I'm gonna go in there with my chest out like y'all got these on the shelf. Why not?
I love it. I love it.
You want one? Oh, let me show you how to get it. We baby, but I'm treating till I transition to the ancestors. I am treating every new accomplishment by every Black person as if it is the first time we have done it. Do you understand me?
Yes.
I
Yes,
am
man.
celebrating as if it is the first time we have done it. Period.
Hmm.
Everybody I know was gonna hear about it. The lady in Kroger gonna hear about it. I don't go to Walmart no more because they like to hit me with the carts. Um, but the delivery driver will hear about it. They don't like. I'm beginning to think they just don't see me. I know I'm not the tallest, but they just be ting
Just
ting ting.
attacking you with shopper carts. That's
I'm
doggone
like,
shit.
what the hell? You don't see me. I see you looking like a big old Barney, but I see you. But also one question that I do get asked uh a lot, especially on Instagram, from up and coming artists. This is gonna be a two-parter. Uh One, what's the best advice you can give? And two, do you mentor?
Well, the best advice I can give is it's super simple. You just got to do it. You got to bet on yourself. You got to go out there and formulate an end game, a plan to get there. It doesn't have to be something you have to overly, think. But if this is something that you want to do, I'm speaking from experience. This is something that I should have done 20 years ago. Granted, technology and things like that have improved leaps and bounds since then, but you got to get out there and do it. Don't look back, 5 or 6 years from now and regret that you never put your stuff out or at least tried it. It's the same. I tell people, look at rappers. It's something else I used to do, but look at rappers. If
Yeah, I
you could
heard them
not,
freestyles. I
yeah,
heard them freestyles.
I might. But no, but look, they didn't wait. If you couldn't get a record deal, they didn't sit around and just say, "Well, I got all this talent, but I can't get signed, so I guess it's that." They put their own stuff out. They put out mixtapes. They pressed up their own albums. They bought equipment and put it in their bedroom. Like I bought a $300 4 track when I was in high school to make music. Um, you got to go out there and do it. Every other entrepreneur out there that has a passion for something, just go out there and do it. You just can't sit around and wait and wait and wait and think about what if, and bet on yourself. Like I said, the way things are now, you can bet on yourself without going broke. You don't have to sit up there and put up a second mortgage on your house. You don't have to take out a huge loan from a bank or beg your family for money. You can bet on yourself. Take a paycheck, and do something with it. And for the second part, I have not mentored like on an official capacity. I've offered advice to a lot of people that I know and things of that nature. I learned a long time ago I'm not really much of a teacher, so I I guess I'm old school parent, as that do as I say, not as I do type of stuff. So that's the best thing I can offer on that. But with me taking this leap, I am definitely down to mentor anyone who has any aspirations of it, because all I will tell you to do is follow what I did. You see what I did right here? I made some mistakes. So when you do it, don't do it that. Don't do it like that. Or if you see I was
Mhm.
successful with this, so follow that, because this is all trial and error for me. I've never done this before, so if I win or if I lose, it's going to be all on me, but I'm going to be satisfied because I can finally say I stopped waiting, I stopped procrastinating, I went ahead and did it. So I'm down. If anybody ever has any questions, they want some advice or they just want some input, just holler at me. I will sit up there and do the best that I can for anybody trying to do what I'm doing right now.
And speaking of that, where can the people find you? I know where I can find you too. You
uh,
too.
well, the book is a great place to find me. Most everything I post is public on there anyway, so you can definitely reach out. I don't do the whole super screening if somebody sends me a friend request because I don't have anything to hide. So but the tagstudios.blogspot.com. I made that the blogspot page probably about maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And it was made just for these books. So you can always hit me up on there. All you need is a Gmail account, basically. I mean, any email will
Hmm.
work, but Gmail will take you directly to there. So get that. I'm very personable. I respond to any messages that I get. Just hit me up and I'll do my best to answer whatever questions you have. Or if you just, want to chop it up with me, I'll do that too.
And just to make it easier for you guys, once we wrap here, I will add the Tag Studios link to my link tree. It'll be right at the very top. So in case you forget where all of that is, you all are familiar with my link tree because y'all find me everywhere I go. Oh, and side note, when y'all see me in public, don't just stand there and stare. Come up and say hi. I will say hi back.
You
I'm
know
not
what?
gonna share my food with you, but I'm gonna say hi
Right.
back.
Right. I'll give you a salutation. Hey, that don't cost me
No,
nothing.
because Sunday it got really weird. Somebody they looked and looked and looked, and they're like, "Oh, I recognize you from then." Okay, because I was wondering if you was trying to eat my soul or
Right.
throw me overboard. I wasn't sure. Oh my goodness! And here, oh my God, see this is why you can't work with family. He needs his copy autographed.
Oh, come on. That's one thing I was about to say too. On the first 25 people that order this preview book, you're getting all the goodies, but I'm autographing and signing every single book that I put out. I don't care, if this thing never takes off, cool. But if for some reason if some reason everything comes into fruition and I got Hollywood knocking on my door, or I got Image hitting me up because they want to distribute the book, or anything like that, to where that book has a chance of being worth something someday, I want all you guys to be able to profit off of it. Comic books are collectibles for people that love to read them, but they can also be an investment. And why not? If my something I made at my house and you gave me enough love to buy it, if you can turn around and flip that for a profit, I'm all for it. Please do. So I'm gonna make sure every book is autographed and signed. And that's like I said, with the first 25 people to get it, you're getting like 2 or 3 trading cards. You're getting the bookmark. You're getting a poster. You're getting stickers. You're getting a bonus book. That was one thing that a lot of people were going to find out once they actually get their stuff in the mail. There's a bonus book that I've already got done as well. Just stuff like that. But I will definitely autograph
Okay.
anything.
So as
I'm not
soon
gonna.
as you get them in your hand,
Yes.
I'm gonna need a so I can
Oh, I got you. I got. There's a handful of y'all that ain't got to buy nothing. Y'all just getting it. You're just getting the book.
plus, plus, plus. Being a woman comic stan, I gotta flex on the men online.
Oh, you know it. You know it. I
As I
got you.
always do. And then they always come to my Instagram like, why are you like this? Oh, maybe 20 years if y'all not wanting to let me in the comic book store.
Yes, and that's one thing I have. I've really grown to really love this fact. Is there's more and more Black people that are in the comics, but there's more and more women that are getting into comics, and not just books that are like geared towards women, just books in general. One thing I'm not going to do, I should say, when it comes to my book, is just do pandering type stuff. Um, Everybody's going to be represented, but it's going to be organic because I don't want to have tokens for anything. It's even like with my books, like I'm talking about the highly favored, where everyone in the book that has powers is Black or a person of color. We can do these things without having to be overly preachy. It doesn't have to be, all the red, the black, and the green.
Whoops. Well, Sadie cut out. We'll give him a few more minutes to come back. Maybe there's a connection issue. Oh, there we go.
No idea what just happened.
Sometimes
I,
it happens.
I am so sorry.
No, you're fine.
But yeah, I wanted it to be that without having to be everything is, my character is Black man. He represents Africa and
Oh yeah, we
everything.
don't need Dr. Umar and is much
Yeah, it's
it much respect, but we don't have to
right.
be public enemy 24 hours a day. And for
Yeah.
y'all that are not old enough to understand, Public Enemy is a rap group. Don't be sitting here thinking that.
Yes. And X Clan and all that type, poor righteous teachers. We had a lot of that stuff back
Yeah,
then.
because I said something to somebody about diggable planets, and Lord have mercy. They're like, why would you be digging in the planet?
Oh, I gotta walk away from you if you say anything about Planets Dig Plan, Rebirth of Slick, Nickel Bag of Funk. I can't know. I
And I
can't
was
do it.
like, you never. Okay.
That hurt my soul right there. That threw me all off. I don't even know what I'm talking about no more. You can't listen. Anybody watching this, you need to go. First off, get Diggable Planet's first album, because if nothing else, Rebirth for Slick. I'm cool
Oh
like
my
that.
God.
You know that. But get
Yeah.
their second album. Get their second album, Blowout Comb, and thank me later. That's all I got to tell for the people who aren't familiar with them. That just hurt my soul right there. Can't do Diggable Planets. But that's one thing I will say, and it kind of coincides with this whole comic thing, is the music at that point that you're talking about, the diversity was there. And
Mm-hmm.
you could have Diggable Planets didn't sound anything like Ice Cube, who didn't sound anything like A Tribe Called Quest, who didn't sound anything like KRS-One, who
Who didn't sound anything like MC Light, Queen
yeah,
Latifah, because we had house
exactly.
music, we had trap music, we had gangster rap, we had
Yes,
just mood music, we had conversationalists because they didn't sound like Lauren Hill. They didn't
right.
sound like Nas. Like we had all of these people out here. And my girls JJ Fad.
Oh my gosh, yes, yes.
And they're still touring.
Oh, they are.
I did not know that.
You know, as soon as you said JJ Fad, I automatically thought of that scene from Coming to America when he was when he was trying to get acclimated to New York and they was getting all the New York clothes. I love JJ Fad, but I was like, we aging ourselves right now. But there was diversity so that we could actually, you know, because not everybody's gangster 24/7. So yes, I love my Cube, my NWA, my Compton Most Wanted, my Above the Law, my Top Authority. That was my group back in the day, Top Authority. But I also wanted to listen to Electric Relaxation by Tribe Called Quest. I wanted to listen to De La Soul. I wanted to just hear diversity. And with comics, it's the same thing. So you can be pro-black and make your pro-black comics without having to be preachy and beating people over the head with a message, because that does turn people off. So the diversity that we have um, in you know the comic book community, it's great. And even more so with movie like with how Marvel and Disney, they're killing it. And the thing about it is cool to be a nerd now. It's cool to love comic book movies and wear your comic book shirts. I remember, now granted, because you know, I was raised by some hooligans. Okay, so getting beat up was not going to be something that happened to me, but I was a nerd, and I did see what happened with other nerds. Like they got picked on, and oh, you reading comic books? You know they would get on that. Flip that all the way to today. It's uncool if you don't like, you know, let somebody come out and be like, man, I hate Marvel movies. Man, these people will eat you alive. They will come all in your mentions,
Yeah.
all on your post. They will eat you alive because now it's completely different than it was back then, because it's diversified. Men, women, children, straight people, gay people, it doesn't matter. Black, white, everybody is into this stuff, and everybody is represented by at least one character. So I
And
love that.
that is the truth. Because I went from, why are you gonna dress like a boy? Why do you always have to have on a graphic tee with that on? Cause Becky, I will still steal your daddy in this outfit. This is what I'm gonna wear. Go sit down. And then it for a while it got so bad. I was introduced to comics from an uncle, and I always knew if there was a comic I wanted to read, he would have it. Even to this day, if I don't have it, because he's converted his whole garage to it, I can go
Mm-hmm.
and get it from him. Would there would be times where I would just give him money for the longest to go get a comic for me.
Right.
And now, yeah, now I'm having to school people on Facebook because they're outraged because Spider-Man's bisexual. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you're out. I'm like, you're outraged by that, but you in my inbox. You know what? We ain't even gonna go
Yeah, don't expose these folks. Don't expose these folks.
there.
That also is something that unfortunately, like that particular group I was talking about earlier, they target those particular books. And I'm one of those people that I'm pretty progressive minded. Um, I'm old school with a lot of stuff, but I'm very progressive minded, just for the simple fact that I don't want to see other people be oppressed. And I hate when people, you know, they go after the gay community. And why does everything got to be gay? And why they got to have this? And then you're looking at like one or two characters that are gay in the books, and they treat that as the entire
Yeah,
line of books. Like this, the Superman son, they just
Jonathan Kent.
they put that out, and these people are losing their minds. And I'm like, how
But
many
it's
of
the
y'all
people
actually
who
read
don't
books?
even read the comics,
Yeah,
because the
exactly.
person
Yes.
who was having a back and forth with me, they finally shut up because they were like, well, sexuality has never really been in comics. I said, comics has always been a reflection of society and humanity at the current time. And I
Right.
said, first of all, there is a Green Lantern who is an abusive pedophile. Nobody said anything.
Mm-hmm.
Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn in one universe just flat out dated. In another universe, when Harley finally escaped the Joker, her and Poison Ivy raised the son of Harley and the Joker. I was like, you didn't read it. I said, what did you read? Archie comics? Because
Right.
were you sitting
Right.
there, Patty King, me? Like, no.
Right.
What were you reading, or did you just not catch it? Did you not
Mm-hmm.
catch the fact that most female characters in comic books are very scantily clad and always have to have a romantic interest and have some man sticking their tongue down her throat, but you ain't
Yes.
worried about that because that's not an agenda. When you sit there
Right.
and tell little Tommy, aspire to be like Batman or Iron Man, who are known philanderers,
Yes.
but that's okay. But you worried about a teenager figuring out who he is and having a little crushy crush on his friend.
Right.
I'm like, that says a whole lot about you and not too much about me. So which one of your friends do you still have a crush on?
And even more than that, too, you got to understand that they're complaining about, characters being bi or characters being gay or they're worried about these things. And it's not even just that. They get mad with when like, matter of fact, when Falcon took on the mantle of Captain America in the comics and on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, they're losing their mind over that. Why can't you just create new characters? But when they create new characters who happen to be gay or happen to be black, then all of a sudden you're trying to force diversity down our throats. So you can't win
Mhm.
for losing with those people. But like I said, half of those people aren't reading comics anyway. And what they need to understand is that there is a 14-year-old kid out there that might be confused or, whatever it is, he's going through, he's discovering himself or herself. And they can relate to that particular story where they had a character that was bisexual or whatever the case may be. It's the same thing with us. This is why I said I hate oppression or people that use oppressor tactics, because people don't understand that the first black superhero character that we ever had in comics didn't come along till like 1968, and that was Black Panther. And we didn't have a black character headlining their own books from a major publisher until the 70s. Matter of fact, and this is a little trivia for y'all, and he's actually in my book. The first black comic book character to headline his own book was put out by a group of black comic book creators who published their own stuff. And the publisher, the printer that they were using, it was a white guy. Um, he caught hell from people for having the audacity to publish these Negro books. And they put out one issue. That was it. It was called All Negro Comics. You guys get a chance to look it up. The character's name was Ace Harlem. He actually appears in my preview book. Um, that was in 1940 something. But from 1940 all the way to 1968, we didn't have that. And if they did have that, like, matter of fact, Green Lantern, speaking of which, you know who his sidekick was originally? I'll go ahead and tell you, it was
You
a,
just knew that look on my
it's
face. I'm
because
sorry.
you got to think about the times and stuff come out at.
Ooh,
Like,
yeah, I
people,
know, I
they
know,
think,
I know. That was the time. I know that
mhm.
was the time.
Oh, and it's jacked up. It was an Eskimo character that they called Pie Face, which was an ethnic slur, for any like Pacific Island slash Asian. When you that was a slur for them. And they actually, this guy's name in the comic book was Pie Face. That was Green Lantern's sidekick. And if you saw any black characters, they were the biggest Sambo blackface looking characters you've ever seen in your life. And this wasn't hundreds of years ago. Okay, this was 60, 70 years ago we're talking about, where this stuff was still happening. And so when I see people, especially black people, get all twisted out of shape because the character is gay now, I'm just looking at them like, bruh, when the civil rights movement happened, it didn't happen, again, 100 years ago. It happened when my mama was a kid.
Yeah.
Not my grandmama, my mama. So, we face those things. We had to see it. Why would you turn around and do that to another group of marginalized people? I don't want to get to preaching and stuff like that. Because that's another thing too. In my books are just fun. They're just fun comic books. I'm not worried about characters having sex. I'm not worried about a character tonguing down another character on there. Even on the social issues that I bring up, I'm doing it in an organic way, because I want people to be able to go back and feel like I felt when I got my first couple of comic books. And you're absolutely right. When nobody bats an eye when you see Wonder Woman getting tongued down by Superman or somebody on the front cover of a book, that ain't a part. Oh, that's not an agenda. But when you see a gay character in the books, your first thing is, my kids got to read this. They exposing this to kids. Like, I don't understand what people want. But at Tag Studios anyway, none of that stuff has any place, because it's all about just making good comics that, it, I hope that, it touches home for a lot of people, but it's something that you can read. You read it with your kids, unless I have that disclaimer on the cover that tells you don't let your kids read it. But you can read most of my books with your kids. You can just enjoy it and,
I mean,
be a
I can read
nerd.
all of your books with my kids because them heathens are old.
I
They
hear that.
ancient. They about to collect some AARP cards. But I do want to thank you for coming on.
Yes,
And we
ma'am.
will work behind the scenes to get that party started and going. And please, 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 you all check out tagstudios.blogspot.com. Once again, thank you very much. And I will see the rest of you all tomorrow for, wait a minute. I got some. Oh, get into it with Taz and Chris. I need a nap. As always, each one teach one, each one reach one. See you all later.